Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 2 of communication skills. Hopefully by now you're beginning to find your way around Canvas. You figured out how to access these lectures and you're watching them and how to complete your assignments. There's a discussion post every week. The roadmap to the entire course is both in the syllabus and in the modules tab of Canvas. The only thing that doesn't show up in the modules tab are the lectures and quizzes, and whenever it's time for them, they'll pop up as well. But you can see the roadmap of what's going to be due and when it's going to be due in both the modules tab and in the syllabus for the class. The entire class is mapped out there for you. Now this week you had a speech outline due and a discussion post. This coming Tuesday night you'll have your first speech due and a discussion post as well. The next week you'll have your first personal self-evaluation of your speech and a discussion post then as well. So you kind of see the pattern that will be unfolding over the next several weeks. This week we're going to be talking about Chapter 2 in your textbook. And Chapter 2 is about giving your first speech. Now, I've often heard the story told by my dad and by others in his generation that when the time came for them to learn to swim, they received no formal training. They were quite literally thrown into the deep water and told to swim or drown. That's an extreme manifestation of a simple principle. You learn by doing. So here we are in the second week of class, and it's time for you to give your first speech. This is the public speaking equivalent of being thrown into deep water and learning how to swim. However, we're not going to let you drown. We're going to give you some basic elements of speech and what it takes to prepare for speech. And then we're also going to give you plenty of instruction in the coming weeks before your next speech is due. This speech is all about getting your feet wet, getting into the groove. You're going to give this speech. You can give it in private, just you and the computer or you and your phone. It doesn't have to be before an audience. This is the only speech that doesn't have to be before an audience. Every other speech in this class is going to require you to assemble an audience. So if you want to learn more about the speech assignments and what will be expected of you, please look at the syllabus, and if you have any questions, let me know and I will do my best to answer them. The first step in preparation for giving a speech is topic selection. And hopefully you've already begun to consider this step since you've already turned in an outline for this speech. But let's take a moment and go over the basics. There are 3 basic steps to selecting your topic. First, you should analyze yourself. Secondly, consider your audience and the occasion. And then finally, consider some other criteria. The first step is to analyze your interest and use this information to select a general subject area that you want to work in. If you choose a topic that you're already familiar with, if you choose a topic that already interests you, something you know about or something you want to learn about, then you're setting yourself up for success because you'll do well in that kind of a topic. One way to find a topic like that, a topic that you're already familiar with, is through self-analysis. Your book includes several ways to do this. The first is to conduct a life overview. Divide your life into thirds. Maybe get a sheet of paper and set out an early column, a mid column, and a more recent column. You're dividing your life into 3 segments. Now this isn't based on age. This is just based on experience. You know, the last few years of my life fit in my most recent segment. The middle years of my life, they'll fit in the middle segment. And then the early years of my life fit in the early segment. What you do after that is you go to each segment and you list your main interest and your concerns for each of those life periods. What were your hobbies? What were the things that you were interested in? And what were your worries and your fears? And then once you've listed those things, write a summary sentence for each phase. For instance, during high school, I lived in Blytheville, Arkansas. I was an active member of a community theater group. My main interests were drawing as a hobby and reading. And my favorite outdoor pursuits were hunting and fishing. My favorite time of the year was the fall. Each of those topics is a rich subject area, something I know a lot about, something that I have some interest in. Those hobbies still are hobbies of mine even today. And so I could easily find a speech topic in that list or in that sentence that appeals to me. And so that's one area that you can go to get a speech topic. Another approach is to take a sheet of paper and make 2 columns. On one side, list things that your senses can detect in your present setting. What can you see? What can you hear? What do you smell? In another column, list potential topics that are inspired by those things. For instance, maybe you're sitting in your dorm room right now. Maybe you can smell dirty laundry. Dirty laundry has a very distinct smell. And you might consider a topic that addresses the virtues of doing your laundry in a timely manner. So you can find topics in your environment, and the things you can see, and the things that you can hear, and the things you can smell. Maybe you've got a really noisy, not room member, but your neighbor in the dorm, and you could do a topic on the benefits of not having a noisy environment, not intruding on other people's space with your noise. And so, there are a lot of things you can do from just your immediate surroundings, and they're subjects that, one, you're familiar with, two, you can have fun with. If none of those things work, then turn to a newspaper, or news media, or an online news site. Look at headlines. You don't have to read the whole articles. Just look at headlines and see if any of those headlines jump out at you. Then you might want to read that article. If it's a subject that interests you or a subject you want to learn more about, it will probably make an interesting speech topic. So then you pull up that news article and you get into it more in depth and begin to flesh out your topic. Another option is simply to consider the online media that you consume every day. Ask yourself, are there any potential speech topics that are represented there? Is there something there that I'm interested in, that I want to learn more about, or that I can research and deliver as a topic for a speech? The next thing you need to do is consider your audience and the occasion. So far, we focus solely on things that interest you. But now you need to ask yourself, what might interest your audience? For instance, if you're giving a speech to the Botanical Society, that might not be the best time to exhibit your extensive knowledge about the game Fortnite. The speech that you're going to give needs to interest your audience as well as you. When those two things come together and you find a topic that is of interest to you and is of interest to your audience, at that intersection, you find a rich subject that you can study and that you can feel confident you're going to be able to get the attention of your audience. You're going to get something out of it, and they're going to get something out of it. So when you consider your audience, contemplate a few important questions. First of all, how familiar is the audience with your prospective topic? What do they know about it? Is it something they might be interested in? Secondly, how is your audience likely to feel about the topic? Is it going to excite them, or is it something that they'll find to be mundane? And third, would your audience possibly want to learn about the topic? Is this something that they may want to know more about? Because if it is, then when you begin to speak about it, you're going to get their attention and hold it. And finally, once you've considered your audience and the occasion, let me say this about occasion. Occasion dictates the speech. You give a different speech on let's approach it this way. You give a different speech at a wedding than you give at a funeral. That's a pretty extreme difference of occasion. You give a different speech at a celebration than you do at say an office celebration for reaching a sales goal than you do for somebody's birthday. Finally, there are a few general criteria that will help you select a topic. First of all, avoid overused topics. Unless you have some kind of new information or a very unique perspective, you're going to find yourself saying something that people already know, that they've already heard. Secondly, select an appropriate topic. Appropriate may mean that your topic is not boring to you or to your audience. It may also mean that it's not offensive to your audience. Third, consider the amount of time that you've been given. It's important in every speech situation, not just this class, but every situation, that you work within the perimeters that you've been given. Every assignment in this class has a time frame. It must be longer, at least 2 minutes, no longer than 4 minutes, at least 3 minutes, no longer than 5 minutes, at least 5 minutes, no longer than 7 minutes. It is important that you stay within that frame, that time. First of all, you need to have enough material to hit the minimum time. And then you don't need to have so much material that you go over the maximum time. You can lose points on both ends of that spectrum. So it's important that you consider the amount of time that you've been given. Ask yourself, can I fully address this topic within that framework, within the allotted time that I've been given? And then finally, the last one is common sense. Don't choose a topic that you won't be able to research. Don't choose a topic that there's not a lot of information available to you on the topic. Make sure that you have access to all the information you need to construct your speech.